Hey everyone, welcome back to another Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series review. Today we're taking a look at the Diabloceratops. This review is long overdue. I ended up getting this figure, the Triceratops and Styracosaurus, for Christmas, and I've kind of built up a little bit of a back catalog of figures that I need to review, so it's time to get off my butt and get these knocked out. This Diabloceratops is available from Creative Beast Studios. It retails for $49.99. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to pick up this figure. And if you're outside the US, this figure is also available through Everythingdinosaur, and I'll also leave a link to them in the description. So before we take a closer look at this figure, let's just go over the packaging really quick. Comes in the standard Beast of the Mesozoic packaging. Got the Beast of the Mesozoic logo up there. It's trimmed in a metallic red. You got beautiful artwork of the Diabloceratops on the front of the packaging. Then on the side, you have a silhouette of the Triceratops with the Beast of the Mesozoic logo. And then on the back of the box, the sleeve is removable. You have a checklist for all the Wave 1 figures. And just like every figure in this set, you do get a nice collector card with that artwork that's on the sleeve. Really beautifully well done. And on the back, you get a couple facts about Diabloceratops. So enough about the packaging. Let's take a look at this figure. So let's start with a nice 360-degree view of the Diabloceratops. This really is a beautifully painted figure, just like all the figures in this series. The color scheme is based on real-life animals. This particular figure is based off the Peninsula Rockagama, and you can see the color pattern is very similar. David did throw in a few extra colors instead of just being a red and black figure, and I think it turned out quite nice. The main body is mostly black, and you have highlights of like a rusty orange and red, yellows, and blues with a beautiful teal underbelly, and it really makes for a nice striking contrast on this figure. And as you can see, the articulation is great, and this figure can get some pretty cool poses off with it. Alright, let's just do a couple quick measurements on this figure. So from tip of the beak to tip of the tail, this figure is 10.5 inches long, and it's just over 5 inches long to the top of the horns on its frill. That height will vary depending on how you have the head articulated. So in real life, Diabloceratops was 18 feet long. So with those measurements, I'll put this figure in the 120 scale range, not the 118 scale range, which is stated on the packaging. So let's zoom in and take a look at some of the finer details on this figure, starting with this beautiful head sculpt. Right off the bat, you can see all the beautiful scale detail sculpted on the head of this figure. The head is mostly this rusty orange color. You do have a black stripe going over the eye. The eye is painted orange with a black pupil. The horns are painted a nice tan color, and they are both tipped with black paint. The beak is a very dark brown coloration, and you have some yellow and bright blue highlights on the face and frill, and I think it's a really nice striking contrast. Really love the paintwork on this figure. And then inside the mouth, you can see there's a little bit of a gloss coat and pink paint to give it that wet look, and there are a row of teeth, and they are painted inside there. Just my light is not picking up. You could just kind of make them out right there. And then getting down to the neck, the neck is beautifully sculpted, a lot of nice scale detail on the neck. And just turn the figure from the front really quick. That is a beautiful Diabloceratops profile. The frill is not as widespread like on species like Triceratops. And then going down to the main body, you can see more of that rusty orange stripe that goes all the way down over the hips to about the 3/4 point of the tail, and then you have another yellowish stripe on the top right here. The sides of the belly are just a beautiful teal blue color, and then turn the figure over. The belly is picked out in a nice cream paint. You have some large scale sculpted in there for the belly, and then going down to the feet, you can see the toe claws are beautifully painted, and the feet are wonderfully sculpted. Same thing for the back feet. And then going down to the tail, you get more of that nice teal blue and lots of nice scale variation. And then you have a row of osteoderms along the back right here, and a few more over the hip regions. So yeah, all in all, a beautifully painted figure. This is probably in my top 3 paint scheme for Wave 1. Moving on to articulation, just like most figures in this series, it features 19 points of articulation. The mouth can open pretty wide. Actually, this is probably one of the widest mouths on the figures besides the Ceratops. It can close, just not that flush. That's one complaint I have about these figures. I kind of wish the mouth would close flush, like maybe there was like a little bit on this beak right here, like carved out to allow the beak of the lower jaw to kind of slide in and give it a much more flush look. You can't really fully close the mouths on any of these figures. And then going down to the neck, you do get some side to side movement with the head on this joint. And then at the base of the neck, same thing, you get some nice side to side movement, and you can raise the head up that far and down about that far to give it look like the animal is drinking water. And then going down to the forelegs, they can move back that far, forward that far. They're on a hinge so they can swing out a little bit. You do have articulation at the elbow, which could rotate 360 degrees. Same thing on the 4 feet, and they can pivot forwards and backwards a little bit, and then get down to the midpoint of the body. You do have a torso articulation, which involves some twisting. Can't get really any up and down movement with that. Going down to the hind legs. Hind legs can actually swing around 360 degrees. And then getting down to the knees. Get a little bit of bend at the knees. I just wish maybe the thigh was cut out a little bit right here to give you a little bit more bend on the hind legs. Then you have a little bit of articulation. Wow, it's really, really tight on this one. I have to turn around to the other side. You get some articulation at the ankle right here that can go forwards and backwards, and it can also rotate from side to side. Same thing with the hind feet. You get rotation and a little bit of pivot. And then going down to the tail, you get some nice side to side movement and some nice up and down movement. And that will do it for articulation. Let's move on to comparisons. So moving on to comparisons, first up here it is with one of the human figures from the Mattel Jurassic World line. Here it is with John Hammond. And next up, here it is with another Diabloceratops figure. Here is Safari's limited offering. And these two figures look pretty nice next to each other. You can consider the Safari one maybe like a juvenile specimen. Kind of have a little bit of a family group going on. There's not really too many Diabloceratops figures. The only other one I can think of off the top of my head is the one from Schleich, and unfortunately I don't have that figure. Actually, I don't have any figures from Schleich, and that Diabloceratops from them actually looks like one of the best figures they actually ever produced. And next up, let's compare it to some figures from Wave 1. Here it is with the Styracosaurus, which is one of the larger figures in Wave 1. Wait till Waves 2 and 3 hit. Some of those figures are going to make these two figures look tiny in comparison. And speaking of tiny, here it is with the currently smallest figure in the series right now, the cute Zuni Ceratops. That is until the 1/18 scale Protoceratops and Psittacosaurus come out. And next up here is a figure that shares the same body mold as the Diabloceratops, the juvenile Centrosaurus. And if you know why the Centrosaurus is posed like that, congratulations, you are a fan of my Instagram, and I'm sorry. And lastly, for Beast of the Mesozoic comparisons, here it is with their Psittacosaurus, which has the most famous butthole of any dinosaur that ever existed. And actually, I lied. One more Beast of the Mesozoic comparison. Here it is with one of the Raptor series figures. Here it is with the Dromaeosaurus. Now you have to remember the Raptor series figures are sculpted in 1/6 scale, and the Ceratopsians are sculpted in 1/18 scale. And lastly, ever since this thing came out, everyone wants to see everything compared next to it. Here it is with the PNSO Tyrannosaurus Rex. So final thoughts on this Diabloceratops. Just like I've been saying on all my Beast of the Mesozoic reviews, this figure is fantastic. Love the paint work on it. The sculpting detail is fantastic. The articulation is always a bonus. And you can get these figures in some pretty fun poses. Absolutely love the color scheme on this figure. I think it's in my top 3 for the Wave 1 figures. And it's just a cool looking figure of an awesome looking Ceratopsian. So yeah, I do highly recommend this figure. And like I said at the beginning of the review, you can pick this figure up from Creative Beast Studios. And if you're outside the US, you can also pick this figure up from Everythingdinosaur. Links to both those sites are in the description. So that will do it for the review. I only have one more figure from Wave 1 to review. That is the Subadult Triceratops. And I'll be getting to that review relatively soon. So as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you guys for the next one.